Okay, nothing to see here, folks. It's just gonna get a bit of a long time. You sure you're okay, Helga?
Hey, no, I was. Just,
Shut your trap. I told you not to touch me, major party foe.
I done nothing. Pick up. Nothing. Nothing. Hey,
If you know you gotta get hands, see, then keep it coolsville with the booze.
Didn't think he'd get handsy with you, Elder. Must be the booze. Ah.
The King Queen doesn't want to hear excuses. He's lying. He just needs to sleep it off or whatever. Back to the party.
You really think a co-ed fraternity would work out here in the Westland? Do you know, like, the last college classes were 25 years ago?
So like, Eric wants to start building schools. Maxwell wants to also teach classes. We didn't haul and we got a college. Simple math, really.
We make the first fraternity. Delta. Top. So, did you make that up or was an old fraternity in Morgantown?
The King Queen is the original, the best, and always down to partay. You get it?
The King Queen can't hold their liquor. Look no further than Davy's shows.
hey, Hopadre. Brewno has you cleaning up after the rest of us animals now?
And the Lord God took the man and put him in the garden to keep and dress him.
Genesis, I recall. And do you really think this is the garden religion?
Not quite, but it is a beginning for their souls. The expulsion from paradise was soon upon them, perhaps also upon us.
Honestly, I think there's too much worry. I'm fine. Everybody's will have tough fights maybe, but it's been a big tough fight since we left the vault. One good thing, huh?
And what's that, Mr. Escalante?
Man, EX's mouth is wired shut and he can't say one damn word to me. He was furious to do all his eating for orchestra for the next 2 weeks.
I should not take his misfortune so lightly. Perhaps his sons will be a period of self-reflection for him.
He wanted to take a swing at me, but rules are rules, and we're both forbidden from another fight. It's threatening to lock him up for the rest of the night otherwise.
And I take a day's rest for your injuries has raised your spirits.
I've gotten 3 handshakes, 2 high fives, and a peck on the cheek for being the first to fight Brewno. Totally worth not remembering my name for a few hours. I did have an interesting dream, Maxwell claimed it was the painkillers, but I'm not so sure.
There have been many a prophet that received the Lord's message through dreams and vision. Pray tell, I know what he has revealed to you.
I was teaching in a small school, nothing I've seen in real life. I think mixed classroom, usual desks and chairs, but also workbenches maybe, and it was full of students, some old, some young. I'm not sure what I was teaching precisely, but there was this one man in the back that stood out, not exactly young or old, a long-haired baby who was paying attention and just very subtly, maybe nodding his prologue.
A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto his counsel.
If we educate people the right way, more might still come. People might still die, but maybe, just maybe, a few months.
We do have a second chance now to set a standard, it wills or set it, for good or ill. We cannot blame others if we falter.
This is all a bit too heady for me. I think I'm going to find a drink or two. Maybe play a game of checkers with Sid if he's up for it.
Of course, Mr. Escalante. You have a pleasant evening, and may you go with God in all things. I will continue my humble level.
Good evening, Mask. I thought I'd bring you something to eat. The usual fare, nothing special. It'll be my turn soon. The sissy boy girl versus the bruiser is what they are calling it.
They grossly misrepresent your identity's complexities. I've always said that traditional gender understanding is unnecessarily confined.
I'm giving them a degree of latitude. It's not nearly as bad as what they said back in the vault, especially in the beginning to all of us. Freaks.
As you wish, they did come to understand more and more as time went on. The human race is apparently capable of learning, but so is the Commandant too.
Are we merely ants or lesser forms of life to you? If so, are you not guilty of the same conclusions?
It is completely true that I am a member of the same species of greater primate as the rest of my vault dwellers. It would be foolish for me to assume I am biologically distinct. However, how many obtain their first university degree at the age of 40? their first doctorate at the age of 16.
We had prize winners, doctors, and academic celebrities aplenty in the vault. You weren't distinct in your qualifications.
This is also correct. However, many of them had talents that simply went to waste as security guards and janitors. I did prize the rare one who worked with me, and together we accomplished something. By the time I was 19, I had 3 doctorates and 4 masters in a variety of fields: genetics, biochemistry, nutritional science, general medicine.
Merely pieces of papers. Did you do all that work just for pieces of paper?
You are again correct. The degrees themselves mean little to me, but the work. I could surround myself, I suppose, like a warm blanket, and so many great minds to work with.
I've seen your mind work. Just being one thing on a long list of multiple tasks. Some people might be bothered by that, but as an artist, I can understand that.
Simply put, the world of science interested me from a young age. I could never understand why other children's minds didn't work the same way. They were slow, inefficient, singular of purpose. And my parents provided me every input and outlet for my curiosity with no objection or even pause. I simply asked and they provided. I can still remember discussing my first coursework on genetics at the dinner table with my mother. I was 10 and had grown bored with high school rather quickly.
When I was 10, I was in elementary school. My father berating for spending too much time with girls and not enough roving it up with the boys. I can't even remember what we were studying in school at the time. It's all a big blow, to be honest. Just my father going to work. The occasional grunt of approval or disapproval. He wasn't a bad father per se. We definitely had some happy memories, but he didn't understand me. To be fair, I didn't even understand myself.
My parents were often quite busy, but I never really minded. We'd get together once or twice a week. Maybe a simple meal, some discussion of what we were working on. But they always would field any questions I had about anything. They explained human reproduction and sexuality when I was about 6 years old, encouraged me to find out my own pace of sexual discovery. They did instill the idea that consent was firmly necessary as a matter of ethics. When I informed that I felt attraction above girls and boys, or really anything, they acknowledged it, but were otherwise unmoved by it.
Given that acting on that was borderline illegal and tantamount to treason, how did they explain the social mores and laws regarding it?
That had been covered previously as we discussed history and the limitations put on the human mind. If we were to go back to burning here it is, how would I react as a man of science? The need to pretend and console was near obvious to me, but I also knew due to my greatness would be afforded a more lax response to my depravity.
My father would have beaten the tar out of me if he had seen me in makeup, much less what he would done to me as I am now.
I believe that would have been a poor response on his part. How you choose to identify is a personal decision, no different than your favorite flavor of Nuka-Cola.
How do you think your parents would have reacted to me?
I think my father would enjoy your music. My mother would be indifferent, but perhaps suggested I find somebody of my level of intelligence. But otherwise they both would have been polite about it. You might have found them to be a bit unemotional, but certainly not rude. I actually found them to be warm, caring, and loving, and I credit that for my early positive development. I was always confused by others' parents who failed to provide those qualities, but my own parents said it was a failure of their genetics and environment that needed great improvement. I attended a boarding school for 2 years. I wanted to some more worldly experience for social experiments. One of my roommates' father had beaten him mercilessly for being intelligent, because he could perform calculus at the age of 8. I had a difficult time understanding that. It actually occupied several weeks of my time as sought to understand the reasoning behind such an act. Parents should desire for their children to exceed them in accomplishment and intelligence.
Your parents should written books on parenting. It seems they were experts in that field.
They did, in fact, write too. But those who usually read their books rarely had any interest in parental advice. Children were usually afterthoughts to them, nothing more.
Why didn't they have more children, if I may ask?
My mother had fertility issues, several miscarriages before me, several after, even sought a fertility treatment. It had caused some distress in their marriage. even offered to allow my father to propagate with others. He refused.
Perhaps because they were soulmates and loved each other.
They would not have used such poetic language, but yes, they did. The idea of constant companionship and mutual interest to build something new, and that something was me.
Were they ever affectionate towards you or themselves? Physically, I mean. I almost imagine a pair of robots conversing with each other.
They could be mistaken for being rather mechanical or unemotional, but if you truly knew them, you saw the signs, simple physical touch. They kissed each other discreetly. They had a monthly ritual of sorts. A dinner date, you might call it, followed by sexual intercourse. A ritual that they took great pains to add in, lest it introduced disharmony into their marriage. I never gathered that either had any attraction or interest in anybody else, but they didn't chide me for being the complete opposite. I remember my father in a rare moment of emotional outburst, arguing with Jack Cabot and risking employment termination when he chose to double up on his monthly ritual. But he reasoned that the Cabot family needed him more than he needed them, and their relationship resumed.
You really do miss them, don't you?
As I pointed out, they would have been great assets in the vault and with my work. They could have assisted me greatly in my projects, and me with theirs.
But aside from that, not merely missing their intelligence.
They would also been a powerful counterbalance in council with the overseer. She wasn't a very good administrator, especially in the beginning.
That's not what I mean, and you know it.
I know what you mean. Yes, I do miss them dearly, and think of them often. But it can't cloud my judgment nor my work. If I wish to honor them, I need to be their ultimate legacy.
I believe I need to start getting ready for my bout with the bruiser. I thought of making myself up for it, but I've been told all the extra makeup or glitter could be harmful in the event of injury.
Farewell then. I will be in attendance in the event of needed medical services, and I promise to eat something too.
Good evening, Doctor. Is it safe for us to talk?
Of course, the next match is coming up. I take it my fortunes have risen in the meantime.
They have. I do believe your goals will be met. But that comes to the topic of the next fight, Dayvee. You know that he can't be allowed to reach the 3 minutes, and people want to see him down it hard.
It's unfortunate, but I understand. Provided our agreement is still in place, he has to be able to walk away from it, having to perform additional surgeries in this environment. Could be very risky to us all.
That's really up to him. If he has the sense to stay down when he goes down, if too many people last the 3, profits will start to go down considerably before Jerry is up.
Alice, that is something I can't control, but that doesn't negate our agreement. I assure you, if it is broken, you won't want to have me as an enemy.
They're standing close. Joe lands the left hook.